In 1931, Japan started its aggressive expansion throughout all of Asia, especially in China. It was only a matter of time before the Japanese forces take over the port city of Hong Kong. Hong Kong has a history that goes to a century back. In 1839, China and Great Britain went into war. This war was called the First Opium War. The First Opium War ended by the Treaty of Nanjing, which allowed Great Britain to acquire territories in the Hong Kong area from the Qing dynasty of China. Over the next century, Hong Kong became a port city for Great Britain and a symbol of Great Britain's strength in the Far East. However, even though Hong Kong held significance in the Far East, Great Britain knew that if the Japanese forces were ever to engage an attack onto the port city of Hong Kong, they would not be able to defend the Japanese attack. In order to deter Japanese expansion throughout Asia, Winston Churchill and his advisors decided to send reinforcements into Hong Kong. Great Britain sent Canadian troops as reinforcements to Hong Kong because due to the conflict in Europe, Great Britain couldn't take the chance of sending their own members to Hong Kong. The Canadian reinforcements was another way to tell the leader of China, Chiang Kai-shek, that Britain was serious when they meant they would support China. However, the Canadians didn't know about their inevitable predicted defeat in Hong Kong. When the Japanese army reached the northern border of Hong Kong, British intelligence estimated that only 20,000 Japanese men would be facing them. Let's just say they were around 30,000 lower than the actual amount. Yeah, there were 52,000 Japanese men ready to fight. 8 a.m., December 8, 1941. Japanese troops launched an attack on the British army that were stationed at the Gin Drinkers Line. The Gin Drinkers Line was a British military defensive line that made use of the mountains north of the Kowloon Peninsula. The purpose of the Gin Drinkers Line was to prevent enemy territories from expanding outwards. The line was supposed to last for weeks. However, due to the cleverness of the Japanese forces, the Japanese took down the Gin Drinkers Line in less than a day. December 9th, 1941. The Japanese army executed a perfect left flank on the Gin Drinkers Line. No British troops saw this coming.
Where's it coming from? I think it's over there.
During the Japanese siege of the Gin Drinkers Line, the Japanese also bombed the Royal Air Force Base, Kai Tak Airport. Now, which is pretty bad because the Hong Kong's air base was weak. There was only 5 airplanes, 2 Supermarine Walrus amphibians, and 3 Vickers Wildebeest. So, as you can see, the battle so far is pretty one-sided. December 11, 1941. As the Japanese forces continued to move downward to the Kowloon Peninsula, Commander Christopher Maltby ordered a retreat to go to the island of Hong Kong. The British Indian Army, the Rajputs, after they retreated to the island of Hong Kong, Japan actually asked for surrender 3 times. One on December 13th, one on December 15th, one on December 17th. Because of the British fearful and fighting spirit, all 3 times they declined to surrender. Until December 25th, 1941, also known as Black Christmas, Governor General of Hong Kong, Sir Mark Atchison Young, declared surrender.
降参する気になったか？
No!
まだ降参するつもりにならないか？
No!
そろそろ降参するか？
No!
そろそろ降参してくれません？
Okay!
During the time frame of December 13th to December 25th, Japan had no mercy for their enemies. On December 18th, they infiltrated the island of Hong Kong. December 19th, they divided the British defense line in half and took control of the western part of the island. But that's not all. The Japanese army killed nuns and medical staffs even after they already surrendered. Not to mention, on December 24th, they went into a hospital and they killed or tortured everyone in there. So, in a sense, just think of it this way. If you're not Japanese, expect to be killed, tortured, or raped.
Wait, no.
Yes, I was beaten on several occasions.
I lied about one of my soldiers who stole a can of salmon. I said that he found it. And so we got a terrible beating.
He had 2 guards hold me while he knocked me unconscious.
It was bad enough that I nearly died with a kidney infection.
We were all suffering malnutrition.
The rice with the worms in it and all the crappy, the floor sweepings for the rice and things like that.
What did you weigh when war started? What was your weight?
185 pounds.
And when you were released?
About 65 pounds.
Even after the battle ended, most people from the British Army thought it was over. Oh boy, it sure was not. See, the Japanese forces didn't respect the Geneva Convention back in 1929. What does that mean? Well, it means that the Japanese are going to torture the living crap out of the British Army and the Chinese. They would put the British and the Chinese through intense labor by working in the mines. The number of soldiers that died because of Japanese torture was more than the number of deaths in the battle itself. The Battle of Hong Kong now became a prime example of the amount of effort and the great cost of war. Regardless of the gigantic and enormous amount of casualties in Hong Kong, veterans didn't want to think that their fellow soldiers' deaths were in vain. They wanted their fellow soldiers' deaths to have a meaning. That meaning now became that their fellow soldiers' death was a way to slow down the Japanese forces. Even to this day, to commemorate the worthy sacrifices of the British Army and those who died bravely in the war, there are many memorials throughout Hong Kong.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ